What's up, I'm Troubleshoot. It's currently Friday the 31st of October, although the skins that I'll be highlighting are from yesterday. In this video, I'll be showing you all of the brand new final week of Halloween Rust skins that came out on the 30th of October. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. This week, there are 17 brand new skins on top of the existing yearly Halloween skins, which you'll find a link to down below if you haven't seen. And of course, the wallpapers for Halloween are still on sale. I'm not too sure if they'll vanish after this week and if they'll even come back next year, but overall, some of these are really cool, and you'll see those linked down below as well. This week, we'll be going through all of these 17 brand new skins, and we'll start off in no particular order with the clothing. First of all, the Dr. Brainus face mask for $1. Then the Slime Monster hoodie and Slime Monster pants, both for $1 each. A Witch Deer skull mask for $1.50, a bit more expensive. A Dr. Brainus chestplate, this thing looks pretty cool. A pumpkin jacket, very orange. And a witch hide poncho, pretty purple. Then of course we've got yet again another horrendous miner's hat, and this week it's the Creep Miner hat. If you want this facehugger on your head, you can get him for just $2. Then with wearables out of the way, buildables, the Horror Bed for $2, the Moonolight Raider garage door, $3, Hammer from Hell, $2, Sinister Small Box, which apparently glows, Grim Farm double door for $2.50, Tombstone Bed for $2, and finally weapons, the Frankenstein AR for $2 and the Ghost Halloween SMG for $2 as well. Let's have a look at all of these in game real quick, and then we'll check out the Steam store to speculate about where price may be going in the future. Let's start off with clothing. First of all, the Slime Monster hoodie and Slime Monster pants. Incredibly green, very neon, a bunch of eyeballs, a bunch of teeth. These horrific, seems like they were pulled out of Cartoon Network kind of clothes. Absolutely scream that you've been slimed. The little strands of brain or intestine all over this thing, absolutely disgusting, and I think it all comes together really well. Besides being a dark underneath regular bit of clothing, the slime on top is super bright and super neon, so don't expect to be hiding anywhere with this. If you're wearing this, you probably want to be seen. Then, adding on to this, basically perfectly, is the Dr. Brainus face mask. Even though it's part of a different collection, I guess, it's still a very similar green, and again, we've got the same brainy type texture going on top over there. Overall, this is a super fitting Halloween costume / outfit set, which I think looks really cool, even though you're just going to be wearing it only sometimes a year in very certain circumstances. I absolutely love this cartoony, bright, super in-your-face look. I think it looks really cool, and it's super well done. I love it. And at the very front, we've got a tiny worm coming out of our forehead. Then right below this, the Dr. Brainus chestplate seems to fit in almost as well, although the shirt is just a bit different. This metal chestplate doesn't seem to match exactly with the outfit underneath, but it still looks pretty cool in its own unique way. If I take off the shirt that we were wearing, you can see here exactly what it looks like. We've got this cartoony shirt drawn onto this chestplate at the front with a ripped tie, and at the back, we've got a similar setup going on here. Let's just drop those. That's got a couple of little splodges of brown dirt or goop or something, and a couple of rips and tears into our green flesh below. Overall, I think this chestplate looks really clean, although it doesn't necessarily match to the rest of the outfit. Rip tie and things like that do look pretty cool, and maybe in a full whiteout set, this might be a bit of a cool accent color to add, though I'm not entirely sure. Basically everything else here, though, I really do like. Then if you're looking for something a bit more prim, we've got the Witch Deer skull mask for $1.50, which definitely makes you look like an upset witch. And of course, it's one of the very few bone helmet skins that we have, so it's nice to see a new edition there, even though it is a themed edition. And of course, on the sides, we've got this white rag hanging down, and at the very top, this purple sort of cap attached with a belt. This purple matches pretty much exactly to the witch hide poncho, which looks very similar. It's the same sort of purple material, not too sure what it's supposed to be. And on the poncho, we've got a couple of keychains / trinkets hanging off. We've got a couple of blades, a couple of bird skulls, feathers, things like that. It really comes together super well. Let's just remove that bright highlight and you can see more of what exactly is going on here. it's a relatively clean kit. It's nice and dark, although it could definitely be a bit darker. As for a witch kit, yeah, I sort of see it. The face mask is a bit of a stretch. The face is distorted and very upset, which is cool to see, but it's just a bit weird that it's stuck on with exactly this. It does look like a cheap Halloween mask of sorts. The poncho doesn't seem like anything too crazy, although it is of course themed. If you want to be a witch, well, you've got something like that now. You just haven't got a cape hanging off the back or anything like that. This is more just a solid piece. Then finally, the pumpkin jacket for $2 is not necessarily as loud in terms of bright neon colors. It's a much more muted orange, which is nice to see. It can be worn probably while you're exploring around the world. It doesn't seem too crazy. But of course, we can see this jack-o'-lantern type face sculpted into the front onto both of your arms. And of course, at the very back, we've got the same sort of smiley pumpkin jack-o'-lantern face as well. And at the very back, a very nice friend to be joining you when you pull up your hoodie. To me, this definitely does say Rust Halloween skin more than most of the other things that we've seen here so far. But of course, it does come in a close second after all of the slime outfit bits and of course the Dr. Brainus as well. Overall, it's a really solid jacket that's nice to see. And then finally, the truly horrendous item, which of course is the creep miner hat. Absolutely disgusting. I despise how this thing looks. There's these weird anamorphic creepy hands just stuck onto the sides, and of course a very loud screaming mouth at the front. Looks like something pulled straight out of Facepunch's new game Sandbox. Probably that's maybe where some of these bits came from, or at least seem inspired of. But yeah, this absolutely horrendous hairy hat is terrible. I might be picking it up just to mess with other people, but oh geez, even the lamp at the front has its own bit of hair. That's horrendous. This is the true horror behind Halloween in Rust. This is the scariest thing we've seen this entire update. So yeah, anyways, if you want it, it can be all yours for $2. Then moving past that, let's quickly have a look at how all of these look at nighttime. And of course, let's flick over to scene. So do any of the slime outfit pieces glow? No. Does the pumpkin jacket glow? No. And of course, the only item that does glow is, whenever you want it to, the horrendous miner's hat. If you're wearing the witch outfit, again, this completely vanishes. Nothing can be seen here. And finally, the Dr. Brainus helmet and chestplate. Again, we're basically completely invisible. None of this is seen at night at all, making them all perfect for running around and spooking your friends. Moving past this and onto weapons, first of all, let's start off with the Frankenstein AR. This knitted together monster Frankenstein-y flesh weapon has an incredibly interesting looking material. I really like how this thing came together. It's disgusting, it's horrible, a mad scientist threw it together. The very bright neon thread definitely adds to the overall look, and we've got some toxic green waste of some sort dripping out from all over, giving it some life, I guess. Of course, it doesn't seem like anything too much has been shaved off of it, but we'll have a look there in just a second. The playside is basically the same as the backside there. Having a look from the first person, again, you can see this fleshy material up close, and of course this brainy interior where your bullets sit in the middle there. If we scope in here, you can see that we've got a nice bright red front iron sight, but compared to the default AK, basically nothing is missing, which is pretty good. A nice stock standard skin to have. Monsters written on the back, and if we flick over tonight, everything vanishes except for basically the stitching between the bits of fleshy brain and stuff like that. The red front iron sight doesn't show at all. Basically on par with the default AK skin. It's very difficult to see exactly what's going on in a regular Dark Knight, which is sad to see, but overall it's a pretty solid skin otherwise, and I like it quite a bit. Then moving on from here, the Ghost Halloween SMG is a more spiderwebby, intricate metalwork weapon. I love this silverwork slash, I'm not too sure what you'd call it. Look, it's a very nice, simple, dark gray and light gray slash white metal skin that looks absolutely fantastic. These details and the metalwork look really, really cool. A bunch of pumpkins, a casket, a very unhappy sun or something at the very back, spiders, bats, things like that. It's a really, really nice, solid piece that comes together really, really well with all of the usual Halloween tropes all over it. Super clean, super detailed, super simple. I absolutely love it. And of course, compared to the default, I think there is a bit taken away, which appears to be mostly the back iron side. Flicking over to first person, again, this looks super highly detailed. I absolutely love it. And scoping in here, you can see just the front iron side is left with a white tip at the very front, which should mean it's easy to see at night. Compared to the default, it's nice to have a bit of that back iron side removed, even though it wasn't obscuring all that much to begin with. Flicking over to nighttime, you can see that the very angry face on the back stays there, but unfortunately, the front iron side vanishes completely. Compared to the default, which seems to be about the same, I think you probably need a slightly brighter front iron side for it to be seen at nighttime, but here you haven't got much to go off of except for the skull, maybe your crosshair if you have that enabled, or whatever you've stuck in the center of your screen to aim with. A little bit disappointing, but that's really the one and only flaw with this skin, at least in my opinion. Maybe a slightly brighter or slightly more painted front iron sight would have fixed that. I'm not entirely too sure. Finally, the last handheld item is the hammer from hell. This, as you'd expect, does glow quite a bit. That's the whole shtick of it. It's a very dark black / metal hammer, which all comes together really well with this magma type red all over it, a couple of like symbols of some sort, some eyes and things like that. Looking at it, you definitely looks like it was pulled straight from hell, at least somewhat. The bottom, which isn't really going to be seen, is just this plain black material, as you can see, but overall it comes together really well. Not too sure what any of the symbols are supposed to mean, besides glowing, making it basically impossible to use during general competitive gameplay. If you're just sticking together a base really quick, it probably doesn't really matter anyways. Overall, it's pretty solid, though nothing too crazy. Then moving on from there and on to buildables. First of all, the Sinister Small Box for $2. Is this adorable? Well, we haven't seen something like this before. It's a box on a pedestal / legs, which is standing off the ground. Usually we've got the top of the box removed, although now we've got some transparency on the bottom, giving it this more unique standing on top of other items look, which you may not have seen before. And of course, the tongue that droops down at the very front, giving it a pretty cool 3D looking effect. As we haven't seen any kind of this particular transparency before, I think this is super neat and a nice use of removing parts of the object to add more detail to it. It comes together really, really well, and if we flick over to nighttime, you can see that just the eyes, the teeth, and the top of the box have bits glowing. Absolutely love this thing, though of course you won't be dropping it outside your base to stash loot. This is more of a in-your-base item, which comes together really, really well with this different kind of darker, maybe mahogany type wood. Super solid, I absolutely love it. Then from there, to the left, the horror bed for $2. Is this a very bright orange yellowy type bed with a black bed frame? That's just plain black ashy wood with a extremely bright orange mattress and pillow. We've seen a couple of bed skins at this point, and some of them are glowing. This one, unfortunately, is not necessarily a glowing skin, but it's more of just sort of a self-emitting type skin. Maybe the pumpkin eyes at the bottom have a bit more of the glowy type effect, but overall, this bed skin seems to just stick out of the world in a really strange way. The mattress just has this illumination to it that none of the rest of the bed has. Maybe if it was casting a bit of light onto the wood or things like that, it may look a bit more natural, but here it just looks like a 3D object stuck into your world that doesn't really exactly belong there just because of this weird self-emission light. We've seen this before on one other bed skin, and hopefully we don't see much of it in the future, at least when it's not so blended in with the rest of the object. It just sort of seems to be inserted there and it hasn't had lighting calculations done on it. That's at least what it feels like. Overall, not terrible though. It's a very bright orange bed. If you want bright bed skins, this is a pretty cool pick. While it is marked as glowing, it's more of just a self-emitting item. Then moving across to the right, the other bed that we have this week is much more creative in my opinion. The Tombstone Bed for $2 has this 3D spiderweb drawn across the top of it in place of your blanket. This very dark stony material covers the rest of it from the mattress to the pillow, which has RIP inscribed on it, and of course the bed frame as well seems to be out of the same cracked stone material. Overall, it's super cool. It comes together really, really well, very much like any kind of tombstone, which is exactly what it's named. And if we flick over to nighttime, you wouldn't expect this thing to glow, and well, it doesn't at all. It vanishes completely. The 3D effect that's done with the duvet hanging over the top looks absolutely superb. I love how this thing looks. I think it's a really good use of what was there, and it's super creative. This is probably the only bed skin that I'll be picking up this week, if any. Then from there, the last 3 items this week before we flick over to price speculation are of course these 3 doors. We'll start off with the most expensive door, the Moonolight rated garage door, which is definitely a very interesting looking door. I do like this door quite a bit. I think there's a ton of details that have been stuck into this, and it looks more like a streamer door than it does a regular weekly Rust skin item, so I'm not entirely too sure if it was supposed to originally be a Twitch drop or if it's just a themed masterpiece that comes together really well in Rust. The roll-up at the top is absolutely incredible. It's a pumpkin slash jack-o'-lantern with glowing eyes, and if we flick over to nighttime, as you can already see, it just has this glowing effect over basically everything. It's not entirely emissive, so it's only really these highlights that glow, including the main character in the center, but it all comes together really well, and I really like this door. That's probably why this is the #1 selling item this week, but we'll get there in just a second. Then moving across to the right, you've already seen its look at nighttime. The Dracula sheet metal door for $2.50, ever so slightly cheaper than the garage door, is a bit blown out in the sunlight here. It's a very bright color, but if we have a look at the backside here, you can definitely see a lot more of the details going on. You can see that there's a Dracula in the center, glowing eyes, glowing mouth, bats, spiders, spider webs. Overall, the story is pretty consistent. It comes together really well, but I think where it really shines is at nighttime, when it's just this evil glowing look that I think looks really awesome and super spooky. Overall, this nighttime look is infinitely better than the daytime look, especially in bright light sources, but yeah, solid 9 out of 10 at nighttime, and during the day, maybe a 6 or 7. It's still super clean. Finally, on the right, we've got the Grim Farm double door, which is a sheet metal door, and of course, it's got a couple of pumpkins, a scarecrow, and it's more of a nightlife looking painting than a super spooky artwork. It's a nice door to have finishing off this Halloween sale. Flicking over to nighttime, you can see again the moon glows, the jack-o'-lanterns, the house, things like that. It's a pretty solid skin that might have been nice to have in the first week of Halloween, as I probably would have used it, but outside of Halloween, well, I'm not too sure where this thing would be used. It's a very seasonal item, of course, as the rest of the skins are, but I can see a lot more use throughout the year in the other doors, the box, maybe the bed, etc. This door is definitely very much locked into Halloween, at least in my opinion. Overall, though, still a pretty solid pick, and if you're going to be using it next year Halloween / still throughout the next week, well, hey, I guess you can, at least while the event is still going. And with that, we've seen basically all of the items in-game this week. So without further ado, let's have a look at market speculation, where we'll be making some wild guesstimations about where things might be going in the future. That being said, though, I'm no oracle. I'm just looking at other items and similar sets and similar skins to make some wild price predictions about where things might be going in the future. If you're going to be buying skins, buy them to play with. And of course, if you're going to be selling them in the future, do your own market research. I'm definitely just making some wild speculations here. So flicking over to scmm.app, the best selling items this week are in this order here. Of course, the Moonolight rated garage door, one of my favorite items this week, has sold about 9,600 times as of right now, which is probably 15-16 hours since the items went on sale. So that's a pretty good number of sales, blowing the rest of these completely out of the water. Followed relatively closely behind by the horror bed. Not too sure what's such a big draw towards this. Maybe people like this general emissive type bed. Then the Hammer from Hell, 8,200 sales, is a pretty big step behind that. The Sinister Small Box, 6,300, a massive step behind that, followed closely by the Dr. Brainus Facemask, which is definitely way more popular than the Slime Kit, and of course the Chestplate, making it one of the most popular wearable items this week. Then the Grim Farm double door, 6,000 sales as well. Closely behind that, 5,300, the Dr. Brainus Chestplate, 5,200, the Tombstone Bed, 4,700 and 4,600, the Slime Monster Hoodie and Pants. Then the Dracula sheet metal door, 4,000 sales. Witch Deer Skull Mask, 3,900. Pumpkin Jacket, 3.8, Ghost Halloween SMG, 3.5, Witch Hide Poncho, 3.3, Frankenstein AR dropping down to 2,900, Creep Miner Hat, disgusting, 1,900, a huge step behind the Frankenstein AR, and that's basically everything. Everything else from this point on is just the general yearly drops that come around, so of course we're mainly focusing on these top items here. Starting off at the very top with the $3 Moonolight rated garage door. Of course, while I think it's a really good looking skin and it's one of the most popular skins this week, it is joining a long list of red in the garage door market. Basically nothing here has been profitable in the past year, except for maybe one item. 2024, it's still very much the same. Purchase this garage door if you're going to be playing with it, otherwise probably not. Then the horror bed is joining a small but ever-growing list of beds with about 2 items every week, and everything here is red. Some of the first few items going down quite a bit. The first glowing skin was 23% down from its original sale price, and I don't see these ones being any different, sadly. The horror bed does seem to be doing pretty well, I'm pretty sure, because of the horror bag, which is incredibly overpriced for what it was, and I'm pretty sure maybe this was sold only for a short while. I'm not entirely too sure why this bag is so expensive, at least on the Steam market. Not too sure what's going on here, but I guess for whatever reason that's super popular / super expensive, this one has garnered a lot of attention. The hammer from hell, it does seem pretty good. Basically everything here, in fact every hammer skin this far, has been green, meaning that it's gained a little bit of price since it originally went on sale, so overall things are looking very good for this. And in terms of glowing skins, the last one we saw was the Fancy Orb drop, then the Restoria hammer drop, Komodo 10 hammer, and finally the Toxic hammer, which was the first glowing skin that you can actually trade on the Steam market, released in 2022. So it's the first tradable hammer skin since 3 years ago, making it relatively unique, but overall still things look really, really good for hammers. The From Hell collection is a very long-standing collection, which has seen many items added to it, although most of these here are red, sadly. Then the Sinister Small Box, joining 99 other small boxes, again is just a sea of red. Only a very few unique looking crates, like the work crate over here, have gone up in price, but basically everything else is red, except for the neon set, ultramarine, and certain things like that that just stand out for one reason or another. 2023's Halloween Small Box seemed to be doing pretty well, the Christmas one as well, Easter egg not so much, the Tombstone box, maybe the Nuke Room box, definitely didn't do too well either, and unfortunately there's a lot more red here than there is green, so again, you're really risking things with a small box, but overall this box is super unique and I'll be picking it up just to spice up my base. Then the Dr. Brainus face mask, which is way more popular than the rest of the clothing items this week. This metal chest plate is definitely far more unique than most of the items we've seen this year. They've all been seriously metal / stony. Only really the tiger mask has the same sort of painted look to it. Last year, very similar things going on here. It's not quite a jungle camouflage green, similar to maybe the Twitch drop here, although that's glowing. The tank armor face mask, etc. It's definitely much more of a cartoony look. I absolutely love it. Reminds me of a Cartoon Network / Nickelodeon type show. Absolutely fantastic. I really do like it. I'll be picking it up for that reason, but overall, again, a lot of red going on here. Then the sheet metal double door is joining a couple of other sheet metal double doors that we've seen this year. One of them came in a DLC, the rest of these came in Twitch drops. Only a few of these have actually gone on sale. Surprisingly, the No Mercy door hasn't seen too much luck, as the rest of that set seems to be doing pretty well. Only a few of these doors are doing okay, and it's more of the recent ones, meaning that this one might also see some success, but again, only a few of these doors seem to be getting unlucky and losing quite a bit of their value. Double doors seem to be doing pretty well, and if we look at other Halloween doors, last year I don't think we had anything, maybe Death's Gate, I guess, the Dark Magic Library, these two didn't do too well. The year before, nothing in 2023. 2022, nothing here. 21, we've got the Neon Pumpkin Metal door, which had some really good success. But yeah, there's a lot more green than red in sheet metal doors, but it is still very much a hit or miss gamble. Having a look at the other Grim Farm doors, nothing here is done too well, so it's probably going to follow in the same footsteps. Then the Dr. Brainus chestplate is far less popular than the helmet, even though I still think it looks really unique. Here again, basically, we're just barely breaking even in terms of sale price for these skins, and there's quite a bit of lost value when we have a look at all of the skins in total. A lot of these are red, with only a pinch of them doing really well, which are usually the really unique or for other reasons OP type chestplates like the blackout type skins or green out type skins. This one is more of a themed skin, sort of like the tiger chestplate, I guess. I don't see it doing it too well. Then the Tombstone Bed, again, basically the same thing going on here. It's a sea of red. This skin I really do like, but of course, it's a really tough market. And of course, if you like the Tombstone Bed, you can also have a look at the Tombstone Barricade released 2 years ago, which has sadly not seen much success. Buy it if you want to play with it. Then the Slime Monster Hoodie and Pants. Again, super bright, super green. There's no camouflage with these. It's a very themed item that you'll be buying. There's a lot of black/green-like clothes here, and there's a lot of competition in those markets. But if we have a look at general Halloween-y type stuff, /general themed things, we don't see a lot of green this year at all, and the more themed skins from last year don't see too much success either, which is rather sad. Interestingly though, the pumpkin hoodie here has gone up 26%, and this is about the same design as we've seen on the jacket, but we'll get there in just a second. Then the Slime Monster Pants, again an absolute sea of red here, and it's very similar to the hoodie in that only sort of the meta skins are going up in price here. Having a look at the rest of the Slime Monster collection though does speak a different story. The Road Sign Armor Kit has gone up quite a bit in value, and if you believe that this is going to be added to the same set in the same way, hey, you might see some pretty good success there. Then these were added last year Halloween, which is nice to see a yearly continuation. Then the Dracula sheet metal door is joining a ton of other sheet metal doors. This list is showing 99 other ones. It's basically a sea of red. Basically nothing here is profitable at all, which is incredibly sad. The Witch Deer Skull Mask is joining a very exclusive club of skull masks. A lot of these seeing a lot of green. However, the most recent one didn't see much success at all. You can't base price estimations off of these really old items here. Then the Pumpkin Jacket is part of the Pumpkin collection, which has the hoodie, pants, and roadside gloves. Only the roadside gloves though saw some price increase. This item is going to be fighting along with the rest of the jackets here, and overall things are red basically across the board, except for again the meta items, which are like the blackout, green out kits. Everything else here is not doing well at all, which is sad to see. Then the Ghost Halloween SMG. SMG skins across the board are red. This I don't think is a good item to pick up at all. If you're hoping for any kind of keeping its value in the future, maybe wait for next week and pick it up then. The Witch Hide Poncho, again, basically red across the board except for certain meta type items like the white, the green, maybe some of the black items, etc. Mostly everything that's not green or really dark black here has lost most of its value, which again means this is probably going to be following in the same direction. Then the Frankenstein AR. Again, I'm pretty sure here basically everything is red, and yep, everything is. The median store price, everything has gone down since it went on sale, except for again a very small handful of these. So again, purchase this if you're going to be playing with it, otherwise wait for next week. Finally, the Creep Miner Hat, the least well-selling item this week, probably for good reason, is joining a couple of other miner hats. The Surgeon Hat has gone up quite a bit in value since it was released. However though, it's too soon to tell as this has only been on sale for like 16 hours now. It hasn't had time to even out, much like the previous miner hat skins which haven't seen success at all. And with that, we've covered basically everything this week. You'll find a link to scmm.app down below if you want to do some more snooping. And that's basically that. We've covered everything this week. Of course, if you haven't seen the yearly Rust item skins that come around at Halloween, you'll find a link to that video down below running through basically everything there. And of course, a link to last week's items as well. Of course, we do have the wallpaper skins that have been added. Not too sure if we'll see them returning next year, but they are super sick. And again, if you haven't picked them up, I'd highly recommend you check out that video just so you can consider it before they probably remove from the store and maybe only come back next year, / you'll have to purchase them off the market. Some of them I think have some year-round staying capability, and of course do make your base a lot easier to see at night, meaning they're pretty, well, pay to win. But yeah, that's really that. Thank you all for watching. My name's been Troubleshoot, and I'll see you all next time. Ciao.